Hi everyone, my name is Anna and today I'm going to be talking to you about my tools and my workflow. This has come about because a friend of mine is having trouble making the transition from traditional to digital when it comes to inking, and I will be focusing more on that. He has a Cintiq, but still he is having trouble, transitioning. So instead of just giving him a couple tricks, I am going to make a video for everyone, and hopefully all of you will be able to take something from it. So the most obvious tools that I use are Photoshop, CS6. I haven't felt the need to upgrade it or anything. I've just gotten so used to it. Just does everything that I needed to do. No more, no less. So for me, it's perfect. Then I am using a Cintiq 13 HD, and I'm going to show you the shortcuts that I have. Here we go. As you can see, this is my radial menu. These buttons 1, 2, and 3, I will explain to you what they are. They are from the program Lazy Nezumi, which is a brush stabilizer, essentially. It's what I use to paint, to draw, to do line art, and I will explain to you what my settings are. Flip H is just flip horizontal, as you can see. It's very handy to see if you're having any trouble, with your drawing or whatever. You can fix it. Save, obviously. Eraser, lasso, and fill, because I use fill a lot. Fill, there you go. You can't really see, but I'll show you. I have tip feel closest to soft. This is normal, current pressure, whatever. Keystroke, this is eyedropper, which is the top button. Brush stroke on the bottom. This is eraser, I assume. I never use it. Bottom is Z, which is zoom. F, it's for providing an extra space, which toward the Cintiq. As you can see, I just clicked F, and you can just pan between these three modes. I usually stick with this one. It's really handy. Like, if I was just here, I couldn't really move the image unless I was really just zoomed in. Yeah, I could move it around, but if I want to ink, if I want to ink and I want to move it around, I just can't. So, and I have this, I just click F and I have this extra space, and it all fits together neatly, and I have enough space to do everything. So it's really, really handy. Alright, next. Keystroke H, which is another. I've changed the shortcuts, so you will have to see. It's essentially the hand tool, okay? The hand. You have to go in the preferences and see if everything matches, so that you can have things like this. Sometimes you will have to change shortcuts in here and see what is best for you. I'm just going to quickly show which ones I have. You can check them out, just going through them. There you go. Decrease brush hardness, decrease brush size, whatever. You saw that. This is rotate, which is the R. Very handy. Okay, just show you the keystrokes are normal. Keystroke H, stroke F, which all of them should be the same as they are in Photoshop, I believe. So undo on the left. On the right, it's redo. Really handy if you want to compare between two stages of the drawing and see which one is better. Very handy. Radial menu on this one, which is that thing. keystroke bigger B, which is bigger brush. It's the keystroke that I have. And stroke C. Okay, this is what I have. Pretty simple. Now I'm going to explain to you what the 1, 2, 3 is. I have a program. It's called Lazy Nezumi, which I have right here. Okay. It's not as big. The number 1, which is on the number pad, it's the 1, number pad 2, and number pad 3, which should be around here. The 4th one I don't use anymore. It's just too much. Essentially, since Photoshop does not have any sort of brush stabilization you see in, for example, Paint Tool Sai or the previous one named Manga Studio or even Coral Painter, even though I haven't touched Coral Painter in a long time. You know, all those programs, it seemed that the line just came out smoother and far more stable. Photoshop never had that. It is crafted, I guess, for the photographer, for the image editor, and they never really implemented that. They only, like, very recently, I believe, started to implement more things toward painters, concept artists, whatever. They always ignore that section of their, their clientele, I mean. But there is this really great program which is called Lazy Nezumi. Oh, there's a Pro. Lazy Nezumi Pro or Lazy Nezumi, and you go online, you just search it up. They have a trial period, you can try it out. Try it out. When you install it, you see that they have all of these enormous options for you. But I'm going to show you mine, which they are made to just smooth my inking as if I was doing it traditionally, because the problem with digital inking is that, furthermore, a lot of people have the addiction to just zoom in a lot. And because they have to zoom in, what happens is they don't have the same perception as they would on paper. Like on paper, you have most of the time you have a limited amount of zoom, quote unquote, that you can do on your picture. And your hand has a lot more control over what you're doing. So it's a lot easier to ink. Before I made all of this, before I had a Cintiq, if I had to do any big piece or any big work, I would definitely do it first traditional, the inks traditionally, and then I would go and color it digitally, because digital inking was just such a pain in the ass. I never really liked it. I had to make such a huge effort to keep focus, even when painting was a bit of a pain too, but not as much, because you don't have to be as precise. It's far more forgiving. But even if I did have to do some digital line art with a tablet, not on a screen, I used these setups and they helped tremendously still. But with a Cintiq, everything became a lot easier, a lot more intuitive, and I still use the same setup. I had to tweak it a little bit when I got the Cintiq, but I've just gotten used to it. And this is what I use. Subtle 1, which I believe is just the subtle option that the program has, so you can check everything from here and just copy it. Subtle 2, which is the one that I use most by far. It's one that's really stabilized everything. It's the middle ground for either drawing or inking, everything, and it is perfect for me. You can try it out and tweak it. A long time ago, I don't know every single one of these by heart, what each one of them does, but you have at the bottom here a description of what each one of these does, and you can just fool around with them and see which one of them might be best for you, or just tweak them around a little bit. And yeah, the third one is also one that I don't use a lot, but it's for those cases that I really have to make a swooping long line, you know, all over the screen, and I really need that extra help, you know, going through it and not messing everything up or having to go it through multiple times, you know, which is so annoying. So yeah, if you were on paper, the line they would have to do would be a lot easier, and you would have a better perspective on what you're doing, and the whole drawing, you know, the drawing as a whole. So it would be a lot easier. But on digital, you know, you don't have that ease. At least I find that I don't have that ease. I also wanted to show you something really quick, which is something called Pure Ref, and there's nothing here. This is just a general reference program. I just wanted to check it out and go online. It's just like, it's really amazing program that lets you, yeah, this is for a comic that I did, and you can have it just on top of everything. You can go back to your program and it just sits on top of everything. It's amazing. You can resize images, you can cut them, you can rotate them, you can take out the color on them. It's amazing. So I just wanted to check it out because this is something that I also use, and yeah, it might be very useful to you, and you don't have to spend money on prints or paper to have references, or just go on Pinterest all the time. The references will be right here or right here in the corner, and you can be working peacefully. So on this part of the tutorial, I wanted to make a sort of disclaimer, because what I'm trying to tell you with all of this is that when you are going from traditional to digital, your mindset should be, how can I best mimic what I had in traditional, what I have in traditional. And this is what my thought process was is when I created that brush collection that was very specific and that I rarely change. So yeah, I had before I had a lot of just issues with my brush sets because I kept changing them all the time, and I guess that's a problem with a lot of artists that work digitally, is they have these enormous brush sets that they never use, like not even half of them. They just probably use 1/3 of them, and they're always searching for new brushes. And to me, that was really annoying and just unsettling. So I was like, I really have to have a organized tool set, and that is the only way that I will ever be able to come to Photoshop and start my work from the beginning to the end, and have it be the smoothest as possible and the quickest as possible, without me having to guess my tools, to try them out in the middle of the process or whatever constantly. What I'm trying to say is that my tool set might only work for some select people. This is why I'm showing this to my friend, and I told him that I would do this for him, because I know that his inking style, and I know that his drawing style is in a way similar to my own, and the techniques that he uses are in a way similar, very similar to my own. So it might help him, but it might not help you. I hope that I am coming clear on this message to a lot of people, and I hope that you understand what I'm trying to say. Most of the time, success in working in Photoshop that are not very painter friendly or drawing friendly is that thing, finding a tool set that is specially crafted for you, and that you know exactly what each tool does, and having that ease in workflow. So I'm just going to present what I have to you, and You might take something out of it or you might not. So please bear that in mind. To start this off, I would like to say that most of my tools that I use are from Kyle T. Webster. This is why I can't share them, but the names will all be in there and you will be able to see every single one so that you know to which brush set each one belongs to. Okay, this is why I'm not sharing them. Here they are. As you can see, like 99% of them are from Kyle T. Webster, and I don't feel that comfortable sharing them publicly, of course, nor should you. And yeah, my friend has all the sets, so he can easily access all of these brushes and make the set as well. Now, all of you which have or don't have, will find it more difficult to have these brushes, but I think that they are a very good investment. haven't seen brushes that are as good as the ones that he does, and I've tried a few. By a few, I mean a lot. And they're just easy to use, easy to understand. Of course, that at the beginning it can be a headache because you buy a set and it brings like 80 minimum. And this is where you're going to have to make an effort to select them, take a while to do so, and be objective to the brushes that you end up selecting and you end up working. So this is going to take time, this is going to take effort, but in the end it will make itself worth it to you, because you will notice a huge difference in how you work, and what tools do you use, and how easy it is and how smooth it becomes to work digitally. That is at least my experience, and I hope that it is yours in the long run. I have organized them with an objective in mind, which is first come the drawing brushes, then the inking brushes, then I have 2 of them, which is just a blender and an eraser that I really like from him. Then I have some markers around here, some painting brushes, some watercolor brushes, and these are sort of special effect brushes that I use a lot as well. Let's start with the pencil one. It is self-explanatory. I really like this one because it keeps its point pretty well and allows you for a smoother drawing experience, I believe. It doesn't have a lot of texture, but it can get really light, thin, holds its point and tapers at the end, which I really want that in a pencil. If you're light enough, you can still mimic some sort of colored pencil effect, and it's really great. I tend to prefer that one to sketch. Now, charcoal pencil is just essentially almost the same, but it has a far rougher texture, and you can almost ink with it. Let me see if I can zoom in. Can almost ink. Very rough. Well, this one is not so rough, I guess. Okay. And also keep in mind that with each brush, you will have to adjust it toward the size of your canvas. Otherwise, they might not respond as well. And I think it's always healthy to keep a distance when you're drawing, unless it's like a detail or whatever. If I and you weren't able to draw it that well, say that this is a healthy distance to draw. And by distance, I mean zoom, I guess. Because most of the time we have the addiction of just zooming in too much, and it is a detriment more than it is you know, in favor of you. And with the brush stabilizer, it just becomes a lot easier to do it at a distance and have a better perception of the drawing. Okay, what if I pen, which is the third one. It's a really fun brush. It might help you create some effects when you're inking. It's this almost watered down brush. There's a really nice wet texture to it. Pastella, just texture. I really like applying texture in certain places. Really great. I would use it maybe for like these corners, you know, to create some depth in the line work, like that. So on, so forth. For charcoal, essentially the same, but a lot better, a lot grittier, and I think, and you can get some wicked effects. You can use it while painting to just give a lot of texture, for example, to the sky. So, painting in black, but you would paint with something lighter. So, then you could come in here with the blender, blend some parts that you might like. Okay, this is just me scribbling, but you know, you can achieve some pretty cool effects with these brushes, and it's all a matter of how you mix them. Okay, now we come to the inking ones, which are my favorite ones. I have these two main ones, which is Ultimate Rough Inking and Rough Comics. This one holds its tip better, and I'm going to put 2. Still has some texture, which is really nice. It holds its tip better, thin, does job, has texture, because if I was inking traditionally and I would scan it, my lines would still have texture, you know. And rough inking is the one that I tend to use the most. Has a bit more texture, but the thing is that if you increase it a lot, it starts to have these jagged, like these really, I mean, I like them, but sometimes they can be a nuisance. Like, really too textured, if you know what I mean. And this one holds it better, so I tend to use this one more at a certain, you know, at a certain size. And when I need to have something bigger but not look so textured, I use this one. But I still want that grit, okay? I always want gritty, somewhat gritty brushes, because they just imitate the effect a lot better, and once you zoom out, you barely notice that they're gritty anyway, but they have that nice effect to them. 1, 2, okay? I use this one the most. I use this one when I want to make bigger lines that don't look as textured. Bristle 3 is what I use for dry brushing. It's a technique that you just sort of add shadow. I don't know if you're understanding what I'm doing here, but I'm just adding this shadow, and it's really nice and subtle, and you can just build it up really well. So you might be able to see if you make a mistake. Control Z. And it doesn't taper off too much, but you can get like really thick with it if you like. You can just increase it if you want a bigger surface to work with. And then it's up to you how hard you go, how hard your drawings. This is the main brush that I use for dry brushing. So you can clearly see. Effects are quite nice. And as you become more experienced with using this brush, you can just cover larger areas with it, and some pretty wicked effects. so you can see. Okay. Brush pen dry. Wow, these names are always very eccentric. But just a rougher brush. Sometimes I like to have styles where I use, or inking where I use a really rough brush. This is one of those. Don't use it a lot, but it's an option. Simi 4 is one that I use quite often as well, and it's part of the dry brush category. If you if you put it to the size with a tilt on the Cintiq, you can create some pretty nice textures with it, which are quite true to dry brushing, if you ask me. You can also begin with a dry brush and, you know, taper it off. Make some pretty nice. I would use this for something that's more organic, like hair, parts of her breast, for example, you know, trying to build that shadow. And then just going in and fixing everything as you go. Just going in, because you can also do something, you know, produces a very nice line, very nice effect. That. You know, then you could just come in here and go on top like you would. Try to. So I would do it. Okay. Then I'll go in here with bristle, oops, build some shadow. Okay, some shadow on the side of her breast. Just turn this a little bit down so you can see it better. Go about dry brushing. And yeah, all of these tools are ordered in a way that aids my process and aids what I do. So I don't have to stumble upon a million brushes every time that I'm using something, you know. Then I go in with a pencil, add in some small details, some light scratches if you like, whatever it is that you like to do. And yeah, pretty self-explanatory. Tech Micron also is, as you can see, it's just a Micron pen. I rarely use this one, but sometimes I have like really small details where I have to. Smooth Blender, it's a really cool brush. It's the only blender that I've actually enjoyed, even out of the Kyle T. Webster sets. It just blends really nicely without being like too disruptive. If you want to blend here, I choose, let me blend any line art, but if I have this color, example, and then doing it on markers and you want it to be blended or whatever. It's a nice blender. Blends well. It still has some sort of texture to it, which is nice. I appreciate that. The eraser is also nice, the only one that I like from him. And I just use it to pull whites, you know, on the inking. It also has a bit of a texture, and it's just like, yeah, grab that eraser, you pull all the whites. It's amazing, you know? Pull all of them. Really, I believe these ones were in the marker sets. These are markers. I can simplify. If you want to do a wash maybe, and then go over it. Build up slowly. Build up. Smooth blender, smooth it out over there. Remain with the hard edges over that side. It's a nice smooth transition. These are all from the marker set. You can go and try them out yourself. Very interesting brushes. Gouache brush, bristle. These I use for painting, which isn't the purpose of this video, but you get to see all the ones that I use. Watercolors, so on. Grain small is just what the name says. Grain. I use it maybe for smooth transitions of color. Let me just show you a page. Just like this one. A lot of these effects are just build up. I go in, I build up with these brushes, paper texture as well. You know, you go in, you build it up slowly, patiently. So I don't use them a lot. I believe they were all on the Kyle brush set. Just have to look for them. I use this one a lot, which is Noise Fine. It does have this one. Oops, sometimes my stick does that. And I use this one a lot. I build up a lot of these nuances with it, a lot of shadows with it. I still haven't finished this one, the coloring, but I build up a lot of my images with this one. It's thicker sort of noise. As you can see, you can build up a lot of effects with these brushes. And this is exactly what I needed, because when I painted traditionally, I also wanted to have effects like these. And for comics, this is particularly helpful. As you can see, just big and soft. It's showing. I sometimes use this for brushes or just skies or seas if I have to paint them. Some really like smooth, wavy surface. Smoke. This is like my go-to smoke brush, as you can see. So I created all of these smoke effects. Even though it's water, it still looks very sort of fluid and spread out. It's a really nice brush. I really love the effect that it has. This is another one. This is good for a really big. This is good for a really big wash, I think. see as well. Flow. Continue to watch them. This is sort of a dry marker. This is a nice, you can increase them, which I normally do. I like when the marker options on the Kyle T. Webster set have the darken mode, because it doesn't darken it so intensely. I find that all the other ones that have either linear burn or multiply are just so intense. Like this one isn't that much, and you just go there and blend really nicely. You can achieve some pretty true marker effects. 50, this is like a filler brush almost, and you can still go in there, and it's not that hard. I use the blend a lot when painting something. Be sparse with it, nowhere to apply it, I guess. I can't really exemplify it here. I'm trying to make this a quick video, even though it's failing at it. And with the erase gradually, and if you're painting, it's really great because you can just come in here, create some quick highlight almost, and then just come boop, boop. Really light about it. I don't know, you can mix brushes and see exactly what they do and try to make the best out of them. That's what I'm trying to say. Very roughly. So, also another wash brush. It's really nice. I try to build things up pretty gradually when I'm painting. So you can just check them out. It's more of a detail watercolor brush. I also use a lot too. Yes, all these effects were primarily done with these brushes, as you can see, and they're just layered on top of each other, like the noise and everything. Nice rich textures you can get from here if you know how to mix them, and I already know my thought process. This is why I think it's a very personal thing, your brush collection, how you work with it, because I can't just show you in one video how I work with everything. But I hope that you understood at least the beginning part, which is these two for the majority of the lines that I do, because they're just smooth. They're just like these really nice brushes that still retain some texture to them. The dry brushing, what it's for, why I use it, you know, building shadows on their hair. You know, you can clearly see it in my work where I use each brush, hopefully. You know, just trying to build it up. This brush as well. If it's hair, sometimes you need sort of a more textured brush. Just go in with this one too. Try to mimic that sort of randomness of the strokes. Sometimes some strokes come out drier than others, and you need that variability, I think. Otherwise it's not as believable, you know. Well enough, you will start to understand. It's digital, you know. Let me just at least give you an example. Here you see the string dragging because it's really necessary, but out here you don't see it, or you minimally see it, you know. It's pretty close to your brush, unless you go really fast. Here it's not discernible at all, and you can still ink. Sometimes some things don't work, like this. You see that it's distributed. Just switch it, you know, try to find what's best for you. You know, try to reduce the brush to the detail that you have to draw. that is a tip. It was very valuable to me. Try to construct carefully. Try to be as careful as you would be when you're inking traditionally. I guess that what I'm trying to say with this is just remind yourself how personal a brush set can be, and that the brushes are meant to cater to your needs, and that you don't need every other artist's brush when they don't help you in any way in your process. So I would say know exactly what your brushes do, have them in an order to help you have the quickest work possible, and to be make your work really rich, and also help you be organized, and that they know them with the palm of your hand and not be all scattered. You can also see the other tools that I use. This is Coolress too, and you can buy it online. It's a really neat color wheel, my swatches. It's all very self-explanatory and simple in my eyes because I'm just so used to it. I hope that you took something from this. Try to build something that is truly your own, and I hope that you check Kyle's brushes out and make a collection also out of them, or just try my own if you have access to his brushes, his whole collections. If you bought them and you're pretty clueless on where to start, just start with this set and give it a try. I hope that this has been useful to you and to my friend also, and I will see you in the next video. I'm sorry if I was a bit rambly. This is the first time I'm doing this, and I know I probably made a million mistakes, but I hope that this has been truly useful, and will see you in the next video. Bye bye.